Welcome to another edition of the John McEntyre Show live, prime time, like that prime time. I'm yours truly, John McEntyre. Today is Monday, July 15th, 2024. We are halfway through the month of July, and I wish I could say we was halfway through summer, but summer's really just getting started up. Uh, and we're outside here. One of those serious summer storms is moving through. And so we was like, hopefully power will hold up and all of that so we can get this show done. So I'm gonna move as quickly as possible to save time and to make sure we get the show completed. And so you know the routine. Start with some wallet wins, share a few wallet wins, and instead of a question today, I'm just sharing an article, some points from an article that was very alarming, and then I'll do the question of the day, and then we will go about our evening for you. So the first wallet win is paid off all my credit cards. That's the wallet win. Way to go. Um, Wallet win number two. My daughter cosi- consigned her old shoes and made enough to buy two pairs of her favorite shoes for school. Yeah, that's a huge wallet win because this is usually the most expensive part of the wardrobe, the shoes. These kids are spending some serious money on shoes. So two pair, yeah. Um, and I'm not going to go down that road because I'm like some of the shoes we wore when we was younger, they're still wearing them, and they're like 10 times more, cost 10 times more now. So I'm like, yeah, I probably would have ended up, mom would have made me wear flip flops or something. But before wallet win number three, a friend of the family doesn't have kids, so he's helping us pay for college. That is, that's quite neighborly and friendly of them, and I would love to have a friend. Well, I'm gonna take that back. We have family, plenty of family. I know is gonna help with the with college if needed. You know, but I know there's some people out there saying, "Man, I love to have a friend like that or a neighbor like that." Doesn't have friends, and that's not rare. I've seen it quite a few times. Neighbors. Those neighbors, the kids befriend them, and they don't have much family, and they end up leaving inheritances. Making them beneficiaries of their insurance policies and stuff like that. So it does happen. Uh, and that's why we teach Bella to always keep a smile on her face and always be nice and civil to people and be helpful and ready to serve, because you don't know who you're serving today in today's time. There's a lot of people out there, they have money, or they have these big insurance policies, they've sold businesses and just aren't talking about it, and you don't know who. And I'm a firm believer that God put people in your life for specific purposes, and we always want her to pass that test of being neighborly and serving the people around her. And then I pray for that other part. You know, please, that person that she's helping, please let them. I'm just kidding. So I guess that's the reason why that storm sound like it's getting rough right there. So we'll move forward. So we had three good wallet wins there. So now let's get into the actual, like I say, it was an article. This is actually an article from it was televised on a lot of different news stations, and each one had their, I guess they took the specific parts of the story that pertain to their market. I guess I really don't know, but I went online and I saw like five different news stations reported it five different ways. So I took it as being, you know, whatever. Well, the actual white paper, it came from a white paper, a survey from Bankrate. Uh, they do a lot in personal finance industry. Um, they did an article, and it was an alarming article because it was saying more than one in four adults, which was really 27%. They interviewed, I surveyed, I think almost 2,000 people. 27% of them did not have an emergency fund, didn't have an emergency fund at all. And that's very alarming. So you take 27%, for instance, of the American adults, That's millions of people without an emergency fund. And with all of this financial information out here today, there used to be a time where there wasn't much televised. It was only like a handful. Now, you have internet, television shows, shows like this, that radio, all of them are talking about this. And that is, like I said, that's very alarming. Um, and these were adults 18 years and older. 27% of them did not have an emergency fund. And then it went a little bit deeper, that among the generational groups without emergency savings, the millennials were the highest at 34%, followed by the Gen Xers at 31%. And I'm a Gen Xer. We're Gen Xers here. So 31%, uh, that's for us. The Generation Z, Gen Zers, 29%. Baby boomers was doing the best because they grew up during the depression. They were born, some were born during the depression or grew up with depression, in depression families, parents, grandparents, things like that. So they were the lowest, 16%, which is still sort of high because it's 78 million baby boomers. So 16% of 78 million, almost 10 million of them. That's a high number. Now you're adding the other generations. That is a lot of people in America without an emergency fund, and that is very alarming because the least little thing could wipe them out. Not least little thing, but one good emergency could actually do a lot of damage. And so there's some things that has to be put in place. But I wanted to add another part from the actual survey. It said respondents were asked if the priority is to build their emergency savings or pay down their debt. It said approximately 36% said paying down their debt and increasing their emergency savings is a priority, compared to 28% only focusing on building their emergency savings. 25% are prioritizing paying down their debt, and 11% said that neither is a priority. So there's like 11% out there that just really don't care. It's like, whatever. And your financial future is not something to, take lightly, as we're seeing, poverty levels and the strain on the healthcare systems, and the Medicare, Medicaid, all of those programs are being really, mainly Medicaid. Those types of programs are being strained to the hilt, to support a lot of people that could have just made better decisions. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what financial success is. It's just a series of decisions made over and over. You just decide to do something and you make it happen. And so the average American is walking around with a $1,000 phone in their hand, but don't have at least 1,000 in an emergency fund. You know, um, and that's just not America. We've seen it in other countries too. Some of the poorest countries in the world, they're walking around with cell phones and things like that. These in their particular areas, those really are luxuries. Here they're just a way of life now. At one time they were luxuries, now they're just everyday tools that are needed. But in some countries, not eating but carrying a phone, so that's like a priority type thing. Well, that's now you see why it's so alarming to me that such a high percentage of Americans, with all of this information that we have, like I said, it used to be a time where they could have maybe used the excuse, well, we didn't have access to information. It's plenty out there, for every personality, temperament, everything, any style, whatever, to create a plan for your money. So now you see why that's so alarming. As I said, we've got to tighten up on this emergency saving, because that's part of the foundation of your financial success. No matter how much you accomplish, if you don't have your emergency funds in place, 3 to 6 months of emergency fund, job loss, a major accident, something like that, and all of that work is wiped out. And we've seen it happen more than we like to say. Um, there's nothing worse to see someone 40s, 50s, 60 years old. One thing just basically wiped out their financial future, and they're having to start from zero, and they've lost all of the time, and then the hope starts to get them, and that's not it's not a pretty sight to see. So, and I'm quite sure it didn't look good, so I know it didn't feel good at all. So what we need to do is basically just come to the conclusion and make a decision that we're going to build uh, an emergency fund for ourselves, and it's just a few steps. Basically, uh, you think first you want to start with the $1,000, and they call it a storming. It's a principle called storming, where you sort of lower things down, eating out all of those other things that you're doing in life for a season or just a while or whatever, till you can get so much money saved up for emergency purposes. It's called storming. It's not something that you're going to do forever. It's just what you're doing because an emergency can wipe you out. So you need to go like into an emergency mode to get this built up. And once you get it to a certain point, then you can bring things back up to whatever you implement it into your plan. You make it you get the high yield savings account, not a regular savings account, a high yield savings account, something that's keeping ahead of inflation. It's not eating the money up, maybe even causing some growth, but it's ahead of inflation, and you can get to it real easy. You don't have to go through any fees or whatever to get the money. You always have access to it. Then you want to make regular contributions, make it a priority, put it in the budget, that this is something I contribute to every week, every pay period, or however you're paid every pay period. Put something in there, and like I say, this is separate. This is not in the home operations account. This is a separate account, and you keep it over there and keep contributing to it, and just make it part. Do everything that you've always been doing. Contributing to um, your investments, your retirement accounts, making sure you're paying away debt. But even when you go into emergency mode, the storm mode, talking of debt, you just bring all of that down to minimum payments and focus on putting money here for emergency purposes. And then once you get it to a place, now you can get everything back to regular, and then just keep contributing till you hit the 3 to 6 months. Or as I've always said, depending on the industry you're in or how large then you also have the sinking fund thing going. Make sure your sinking fund is in place, because that will handle things that aren't emergencies. Things that that's coming up soon, like major repairs, car, or something to the home, or some expenditure you're going to have to make that's quite sizable. Those are two separate accounts. You want to use your emergency fund for something that you knew was coming. It wasn't an emergency. So yeah, and like I always say, just start small. Just say, okay, this is going to be one of my wallet wins I'm going to focus on till I make it happen, till it's fully funded. Um, and just start small, whatever you can do. And like in debt, we have the snowball, debt snowball. You can call this the debt emergency plan. You're going to contribute small until it snowballs and it grows, till your savings grow to a certain point, and now it's taking on its own, momentum, and the savings and everything. And so we made the alarm call, gave a plan to actually fix this problem here. So let's all get the work on taking care of this, because this is America. A lot of opportunity here, and it would be sad to take advantage of a great opportunity and lose it all to an emergency. So there we go. That's my now you understand why I didn't do a question, why I wanted to discuss this today. So yeah, and if you wanted to read the full article, you can actually go to bankrate.com. And it's like on the home page, it's like glaring at you. So yeah, read it because it's much longer. I mean, it's like it's a pretty long article. They went very in depth with this. So yeah. All right. Well, before I go, we're going to do the question of the day, which ties into this. And my question is, how would you deal with an unexpected $1,000 emergency? Just plain and simple. Just sit down and think about it. Some people say, well, I have the 1,000, I could take care of it. There's more people than not that says, would I have to use a credit card? Would I have to borrow the money? What would I have to do? Okay, that's your sign to get to work. But that is the question of the day. How would you deal with an unexpected $1,000 emergency? So tune in tomorrow. We should be back to the mornings. I was sort of getting a little bit spoiled and attached to the prime time thing, but they were like, no, you can't change the name of the show to John McEntyre Live Prime Time. Well, I was like, but I want to, and no, it's not a good idea. Okay, well, we'll go back to the morning. So you should see me back here tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock on Facebook Live and YouTube. So until tomorrow, we'll talk.